There's a part of the American economy that doesn't exist on paper. No public record, no congressional oversight, no accountability. It's called the black budget. Every year, billions of dollars vanish into this hidden system, fueling covert programs that even the president might not fully understand. And if you think this is fiction, think again, because buried in official documents, leaks, and declassified files lies proof that America runs a secret, parallel economy, one that operates outside the Constitution, outside transparency, and outside the law. Before we go deeper, pause for a second. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Tell me in the comments. It's fascinating to see how far these untold stories reach. And if you want more content that exposes the unseen machinery of global power, make sure you're subscribed. Now, let's go behind the curtain. The story of America's black budget begins during World War II. The Manhattan Project, a top-secret effort to build the first atomic bomb, was funded with billions that were quietly rerouted from other federal programs. Congress never voted on those specific allocations. Citizens never approved the spending. It was all done under the umbrella of national security. The project was so secret that even Vice President Harry Truman didn't know it existed until he became president. That secrecy set a dangerous precedent. For the first time, a massive government program operated completely outside democratic oversight. And it worked. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the government realized that secrecy could achieve what public debate never could. By the Cold War, this model became permanent. As tensions rose with the Soviet Union, the United States created the Central Intelligence Agency in 1947. Section 102 of the National Security Act allowed the CIA to receive funds without regard to the provisions of law and regulations relating to the expenditure of government funds. In plain English, that meant they could spend money however they wanted. No receipts, no audits, no questions. This was the birth of America's black budget, a pool of hidden funds channeled through vague appropriations, buried line items, and off-the-books accounts. By the 1950s, this shadow economy had exploded. The U-2 spy plane program, for example, was financed entirely in secret. Officially, it didn't exist. When one was shot down over the Soviet Union in 1960, the government claimed it was a weather research aircraft. Even the Pentagon's own ledgers listed fake projects and code names to conceal where money went. Over time, entire industries began depending on this hidden cash flow. Defense contractors, intelligence agencies, and private firms learned how to profit from invisibility. One example is Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works. Officially, it was an advanced development department. Unofficially, it built some of the most classified aircraft in history, like the SR-71 Blackbird and the F-117 Nighthawk, using money Congress never saw. These weren't one-off cases. The entire stealth aircraft program was hidden behind innocuous labels like research and development. The total price tag remains unknown, but historians estimate that by the 1980s, tens of billions had been funneled through secret channels. The deeper issue wasn't the spending itself, it was the system it created. Once the government learned it could operate off-book, it didn't stop. Black projects became black agencies, then black networks. Money flowed through shell corporations, foreign partners, and defense budgets so massive that even auditors couldn't trace them. In 1996, the Department of Defense admitted it couldn't account for $6.5 trillion in transactions. That's not a typo. Trillions vanished into spreadsheets full of adjustments and unreconciled entries. Critics argue this isn't a bug, it's a feature. By making certain programs classified, the government shields them from legal scrutiny. No one outside a small circle knows the scope, purpose, or legality of these operations. They claim it's about security. In practice, it creates an unaccountable power structure, what some call the deep state. To understand how vast this hidden economy has become, let's look at the numbers. Officially, the U.S. intelligence community receives around $90 billion a year. That's the public figure. But according to whistleblowers and investigative reports, the true number could be 2 to 3 times higher once black programs and contingency funds are included. In 2013, the Snowden leaks revealed that the CIA, NSA, and other agencies spent $52.6 billion that year, just from a portion of the black budget. The real total remains classified. So where does the money come from? It's a mix of diverted funds, off-balance sheet financing, and special appropriations buried in defense bills. For example, when Congress approves a $700 billion defense budget, only a fraction of that is itemized publicly. The rest goes into broad categories like research, operations, or procurement, each of which can hide countless classified subprojects. In some cases, the Pentagon even uses private contractors to move money around, creating additional layers of opacity. Another tactic involves supplemental or emergency funding bills. After 9/11, trillions were authorized for the war on terror, much of it outside normal budget processes. These funds supported both declared missions in Iraq and Afghanistan, and undeclared operations across the globe. According to the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, tens of billions simply disappeared, lost to fraud, waste, or theft. But here's the real kicker. The black budget isn't just about defense. Over time, it's become a slush fund for everything from surveillance tech to financial manipulation. The Federal Reserve, for instance, operates independently from Congress and can create money digitally without legislative approval. During the 2008 financial crisis, the Fed secretly lent $16 trillion to global banks, more than the entire U.S. GDP at the time. Most of those loans were never fully disclosed. Some analysts argue that this too is part of the shadow economy, a financial black budget where unelected technocrats move trillions without accountability. By the 21st century, the black budget had grown so large that it formed a parallel government. Former intelligence officials describe it as a state within a state, where policy decisions are made behind closed doors, funded by money no one votes on. And every year it grows larger. This raises a question most people never ask. Can a democracy remain legitimate if half its government operates in secret? The Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse. But if agencies can spend without oversight, that power is meaningless. The founders feared exactly this scenario, a government unbound by transparency, hiding behind security to justify anything. And yet, here we are. In today's America, secret programs decide foreign policy, shape technology, and direct resources without public consent. From drone strikes to data collection, these black operations define the modern state more than any law passed in daylight. But how far does it really go? And who benefits from this shadow economy? The answer lies not in Washington, but in the private sector, the corporations that feed on secrecy and the elites who profit from chaos. If you want to understand how deep the rabbit hole goes, follow the money. Not the money you see, but the money that doesn't officially exist. Because the black budget isn't just a line item hidden in the Pentagon's accounts. It's the foundation of a sprawling network, one that connects intelligence agencies, defense contractors, and private corporations into a single, self-sustaining ecosystem of secrecy. In theory, these funds are used to keep America safe. In practice, they've built an invisible empire, a system that operates beyond elections, beyond laws, and beyond accountability. The deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. This is not a bug in the system. It is the system. Let's rewind to the 1980s, the Reagan era. America was fighting proxy wars in Central America, supporting rebels in Afghanistan, and waging a secret battle against Soviet influence worldwide. But there was a problem. Many of these operations weren't politically popular. Congress often refused to fund them openly. So the intelligence community found a workaround, the black budget. They began using covert financing, weapons deals, off-book bank accounts, and secret arms trades. The most infamous example, the Iran-Contra affair. Senior officials secretly sold weapons to Iran, a country under arms embargo, and used the proceeds to fund Contra rebels in Nicaragua. Congress had banned such funding under the Boland Amendment, but the CIA and National Security Council did it anyway, using hidden channels. The operation was illegal, unconstitutional, and completely unaccountable. And yet, when it was exposed, almost no one faced serious consequences. The message was clear: if it's done in the name of national security, the rules don't apply. That mindset never went away. It evolved. By the 1990s, secret financing wasn't just about covert wars, it became a business model. Defense corporations like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, and Boeing learned that the most profitable contracts were the ones hidden behind classification. Why? Because no one could question the price tag. When lawmakers and auditors can't see the details, costs spiral into the billions. National security became the perfect excuse for limitless spending. Behind every secret program lies a powerful incentive: profit. When a stealth jet or satellite system is classified, its budget becomes invisible. No competition, no oversight, just blank checks. It's estimated that up to 15% of all U.S. defense spending goes into classified programs, roughly $120 billion every year, though some analysts believe the real number is far higher. This secrecy attracts a certain kind of player, not just companies, but individuals who thrive in the shadows. Former generals and intelligence chiefs often transition into lucrative corporate roles. They know how the system works and how to keep it hidden. A revolving door forms between the Pentagon and the boardroom, between government service and corporate profit. The result? A permanent power structure that survives regardless of who sits in the Oval Office. But here's where things take a darker turn. The black budget isn't just about money, it's about control, especially over information. The agencies running these programs often operate with near total autonomy. Their budgets are classified, their missions are compartmentalized. Even congressional committees, the so-called Gang of Eight who receive intelligence briefings, get only a sanitized version of the truth. Former Senator Daniel Inouye once warned that there exists a shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own funding mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of national interest. He wasn't exaggerating. What's worse, secrecy has become contagious. Once you start hiding one thing, you have to hide everything connected to it. The black budget created an incentive to classify not just sensitive programs, but anything that might lead back to them. This is why entire swaths of government are buried under top secret labels. The result is a culture of opacity, a reflexive instinct to conceal rather than reveal. Take Area 51. For decades, its very existence was denied. Officially, it was Groom Lake, a test site for experimental aircraft. Unofficially, it was the heart of America's black aerospace projects. Billions in secret funds poured into that desert base, financing not just stealth bombers, but technologies so advanced they bordered on science fiction. Engineers worked in extreme isolation, often unaware of what other teams were building just a few hangars away. That compartmentalization wasn't just about national security, as it was about protecting budgets. The fewer people who knew, the easier it was to control the narrative. Now, imagine replicating that model across hundreds of programs. Secret labs, hidden test ranges, offshore accounts, entire industries built on silence. This is the architecture of the black budget, a labyrinth so complex that even insiders can see the whole picture. And while this secrecy might make sense in wartime, the U.S. has been in a state of permanent war for decades. After 9/11, the floodgates opened. Trillions were authorized for the global war on terror. Much of it went to private contractors running intelligence, logistics, and security operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond. Companies like Halliburton and Blackwater, later renamed Z, then Academy, became household names, symbols of a new kind of warfare where public money met private profit. Billions vanished into reconstruction projects that never materialized, bases that were abandoned, and contractors that were never audited. In 2016, the Department of Defense's own Inspector General found that $6.5 trillion in accounting adjustments couldn't be properly documented. $6.5 trillion. That's 30 times the GDP of Afghanistan, simply missing. And when asked where it went, Pentagon officials gave a familiar answer. It's classified. Think about that for a second. In a nation built on checks and balances, trillions of taxpayer dollars can disappear. And the justification is you are not allowed to know. This is the true cost of the black budget. It's not just financial, it's democratic. A government that spends in secret governs in secret. And when secrecy becomes routine, so does abuse. Over time, this secrecy began to spill into civilian life. Surveillance programs like PRISM, exposed by Edward Snowden, were funded and developed in the shadows. Tech companies became silent partners in intelligence gathering, feeding user data into classified networks. These weren't rogue projects. They were budgeted, authorized, and hidden, all under the same veil of national security. This is where the black budget intersects with everyday life. The phone in your pocket, the data on your cloud, the camera on your laptop, all products of an unseen alliance between state power and private enterprise. And all funded, at least in part, by money that doesn't officially exist. But the most disturbing question remains, if so much of America's wealth is locked behind secrecy, who really controls it? Where does the accountability end and the empire begin? Because when power hides itself, it stops answering to the people. And in the next part, we'll follow the trail further into the world of secret banking networks, hidden technologies, and the disturbing possibility that the black budget isn't just financing war, but something far more profound. A quiet transformation of global power itself. If the black budget began as a tool for covert warfare, it has since evolved into something much more ambitious, a self-perpetuating ecosystem of power. It's no longer just about weapons or intelligence, it's about influence. It's about building a parallel system where unelected bureaucrats, defense contractors, and private financiers quietly steer the course of history, without ever facing a ballot box. Let's start with the money itself. How does a government spend trillions of dollars without anyone knowing? The answer lies in accounting loopholes and a network of obscure financial instruments designed to move funds off the books. When money flows into classified programs, it becomes what economists call dark spending. It's laundered through shell accounts, obscure line items, or vaguely titled operation support budgets. From there, it can be redirected, often through contractors, into any project deemed sensitive. This system allows for near total flexibility. Funds can be shifted between agencies, diverted into private research, or even moved offshore. Black budgets don't just fund weapons. They fund influence, covert propaganda operations, foreign political manipulation, corporate espionage, all underwritten by money no one can trace. And while the U.S. government officially denies using such tactics domestically, leaks and declassified documents tell another story. Information operations, psychological warfare campaigns, and online narrative control. These aren't theories. They're line items in secret budgets. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The black budget has created a shadow economy, one where traditional market rules no longer apply, because the money flowing through it isn't governed by normal oversight. A secret contract with a defense contractor can create billions in value overnight. A single intelligence program can absorb more funding than entire federal departments. This concentration of untraceable wealth has given rise to what some call the deep state economy, a structure that blurs the line between government and corporate power. But it's not just about money, it's about technology. Many of the tools that shape our world today, GPS, stealth aircraft, advanced computing, began as black budget projects. These technologies emerged from classified programs before trickling down to the civilian sector. But here's the catch. For every innovation we know about, there may be dozens we don't. Secret energy systems, advanced propulsion research, next-generation surveillance tools, all buried under layers of classification. This raises a profound question. What kind of future is being built in secret? If the public only sees the outdated tech that's safe to reveal, what does that say about the technologies being kept hidden? Former defense officials have hinted that certain classified programs are decades ahead of what we see publicly. If true, it means a parallel scientific world exists, one that's decades ahead of the market, operating entirely outside public accountability. And when money, secrecy, and innovation converge, they form power, real power, the kind that can shift economies, shape policies, and even rewrite history. Consider the financial crises of the past few decades. Each time, trillions in emergency funds appeared seemingly overnight, from bailouts in 2008 to pandemic relief in 2020. Most people assume this money came from the Treasury or the Federal Reserve. But what if portions of it were drawn from classified liquidity operations, hidden mechanisms designed to stabilize markets behind the scenes? If so, that means unelected officials, working within secret programs, may have the ability to influence the global economy without public consent. That's not just undemocratic. It's dangerous, because power that answers to no one can easily become power that serves itself. History shows us that every empire, no matter how powerful, eventually succumbs to its own hidden machinery. Rome had its secret police. The British Empire had its colonial intelligence networks. The United States, it has the black budget. Even presidents have struggled to control it. When Dwight Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial complex in 1961, he was referring to this, a self-sustaining system where secrecy and profit feed each other. Every new war, every new threat, every new crisis justifies more funding, more programs, more secrets. It's a cycle that never ends because it was designed not to. And here is the tragic irony. The black budget was created in the name of freedom to defend democracy. But over time, it's done the opposite. It has hollowed out democratic accountability, turning public institutions into facades while real decisions are made behind closed doors. When Congress votes on a defense bill, most members don't know where the majority of that money actually goes. They approve a number, not a plan. And the classified world, the one that really spends it, operates beyond their reach. That's not a democracy, that's an empire. One cloaked in red, white, and blue. So what can we do? How do you hold a system accountable when its very existence depends on invisibility? Some lawmakers have tried to audit the Pentagon. All have failed. The Department of Defense has never once passed a full financial audit. Not because it's impossible, but because the system was built to resist scrutiny. It thrives on complexity. The longer it takes to understand, the easier it is to hide. Transparency advocates argue that even partial disclosure could make a difference. Releasing broad outlines of classified budgets, for instance, or identifying which agencies receive funding, without revealing specific operations. But the intelligence community resists even that, claiming national security would be compromised. It's a convenient shield, because as long as secrecy equals safety, the public will always be told to look the other way. And yet, we're already seeing cracks. Whistleblowers, leaks, investigative journalists, they've begun piecing together fragments of the puzzle. Slowly, the shape of the black budget world is emerging, a vast hidden infrastructure that spans continents powered by money we're told doesn't exist. It's not science fiction. It's the quiet reality behind every major global decision of the last half-century. But maybe the most haunting question of all is this. If the US government controls trillions in unaccountable funds, how much of that power has already slipped into private hands? How much of the black budget has become privatized, absorbed by corporations, hedge funds, or secret consortia? Because once secrecy becomes profitable, it stops belonging to the state. It belongs to whoever can use it best. In the end, the black budget isn't just a story about money. It's a story about what happens when a republic forgets to watch its own shadow. When secrecy becomes habit, freedom becomes illusion.